Welcome to Jamie TV, thank you very much for tuning in. Voltage Modular by Cherry Audio is a virtual modular synthesis environment. It's a free download for Windows and for Mac, and it comes with a number of included modules. You can then visit the store and you can purchase extra modules by various different developers. Now, normally in a video about modular synthesis, you'd expect it to be full of sounds like this. But my good friend Rob Jackson at Waverley Instruments has been making new modules for Voltage Modular that are focused very much on electric guitar. And you might be asking yourself, well, is that really useful in a modular synthesis environment? Well, while you're pondering that very interesting question, let's have a look at and a listen to some of the modules that Waverley Instruments have to offer. Here in Cubase 12 Pro, I have a track armed and ready for my guitar. I have Voltage Modular here as an insert, so I'll open it up and in the left panel I'll type Waverley Instruments. And now we see all the modules available from Rob Jackson. I'm going to grab the Juniorverb Deluxe, drop it into my rack and wire my audio input into the module and out in stereo to best show off the spread of the room sound and reverb. So here's the default sound. The tremolo on this amp really does sound quite gorgeous. Let's just bring up the speed of it a little. And if I bring the depth all the way up, this is going to create a chopper kind of a sound. Okay, I'll knock that back a little and bring the speed way down low. Alright, I'll switch off the tremolo for now and bring down the room control and reverb. We'll come back to those in a moment. Now you'll hear I have a very dry sound. And if I switch off the cabinet simulator, now it just sounds much more like a direct guitar signal. The cabinet sim makes it sound like a mic'd up guitar cabinet. And I like it. Now the bass and treble I'm not going to demonstrate because you know what bass and treble do, but if I just crank the bass, bring the treble all the way down and create a nasty sound. Just to demonstrate that this button here, this will take the EQ section completely out of the amp. Okay, now the room. Let's bring this down to small and bring the room control up a little. If I chop off the chord, you'll hear. Now it sounds like the amp is in a small room. Okay, and if I bring that up to large, let's crank it all the way. Nice. Okay, pop that onto medium, bring it back to a more subtle setting, and bring in some reverb. Okay, now on this amp, the boost is not doing anything until we press this button in here. So we just basically have a master volume for the clean. When I bring this in, if I just, let's see now, we'll bring the boost control quite low. Right, so now we've got that kind of dirty clean sound. Bit more boost, I think. And that reverb's a bit much maybe. Now, I've got that kind of sound where if I play a little harder, now the amp is breaking up. But if I play a bit more gently, it's a bit cleaner. Okay, now let's crank that boost a bit more. And let's see what it can do if we go all the way up. This really is a cracking sounding little amp, but I do not recommend that you buy it. I recommend that you buy this one. The Juniorverb Deluxe Plus is just like the last module we were looking at, but with some extra features for those people who like to go deep with their tweaking and pissy pants around with extra knobs. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but before we take a look at it, you may have noticed that I had a bit of background noise. And although the amp does have a buzzkill switch, I really needed something to just gate off that background noise. So I pulled in this buzzkill module, and with just the default settings alone, if I switch it off, there's my background noise, and that was enough to take care of it. Okay, now we can choose between an 8, 10 and 12 inch US or UK speaker. Here's an 8 inch US. Switch it over to UK. The UK ones have a lot more presence in the lower mid. They're a lot less polite. Let's just go to a 12 inch UK and then the US and back to 10 inch, which I particularly like. The boost switch here, this will change the characteristics of this boost control here between the sound of one of those very popular green pedals and drive is more akin to like the preamp section of an amp breaking up. Let's just switch over to that. And break up, we can switch between the characteristics of a Silverface amp breaking up or a Tweed amp. The Tweed amp is dirtier. Now this sound I really like. Right, now the tremolo, I better just switch the tremolo on. Now here are the extra features for the tremolo. I've missed a section, don't matter, I'll come back to it. Now I hope that you're listening with headphones on or using studio speakers so that I can show you that as I bring up this control, it's going to take the left and right of the tremolo out of phase. And the shape allows us to change the waveform of the tremolo sound. Alright, I'll switch the tremolo off for a moment. Let's go back to sag. Alright, now sag, this emulates what happens when like a vintage amp struggles to cope power-wise with the transients that are being put into the amp. It creates kind of a sagging power and then like a bloom afterwards. And if I just switch it on here and pull some of it up, the effects of it, to be honest, are much like using a compressor. Play something different. Okay, now let's make that recovery longer and bring more of it in. It's subtle, but it can have some really pleasing effects with enough pissy panting around. Okay, now I'm going to switch that off and show you that down here we have some control over the reverb now. We can choose between short, medium or long reverb, and we can change the tonal characteristics of the reverb here. Let's just turn the reverb up so it's more clear, more obvious. We'll make it a long reverb. Okay, now we can darken the tone of that reverb by pulling down this tone control. Personally, I tend to like reverbs quite bright. And with this switch, we can change whether the reverb happens before or after the tremolo. So if I put the tremolo back on, I'll just bring down that phasing. And now the reverb is going to be before the tremolo. Again, subtle, but definitely makes a difference. Okay, now I really wanted to feature this particular module above all the others because I think this one is particularly special, but they're all great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some more effects to this rack, and I'm going to give you some sound examples of some of my favorites. And I'm going to be using this loop down here. One of the really nice things about this amp is I can send out from the amp by having this loop switched on here, and then bring those effects back into the amp, and using this switch I can choose whether the effects loop happens after the preamp section of the amp or before the power amp. If you already use Voltage Modular and you play things with strings, then obviously these modules do make perfect sense. But if you've never used Voltage Modular, well, it's a free download. The modules themselves are relatively inexpensive and extremely high quality. I've got some fabulous guitar software, but I will definitely be using these modules in future. And I think it's really nice how you can just purchase the individual modules that you need. Not everybody wants to buy a suite of hundreds of guitar amps and effects, and you can then pissy pants around with them, changing the order around in your chain and experimenting just like you would with a real life pedal board. If you would like me to make another video demonstrating some of the modules that I didn't have time for in this video, then please do comment below the video. If you thought that I sucked, also comment below the video and tell me why I sucked. That's always good for a laugh. If you liked the video, if it was helpful, please do give me a thumb up, consider subscribing, ding my bell if you'd like to be notified of further nonsense from me, and if you'd like to know more about me or check out my music, my merchandise, my website, all that stuff is down below the video. If you need to contact me directly, my email address and all my social media stuff again is down below the video. Until my next video, take care of yourselves, be good people, make lots of music, and don't piss your pants about. See you later.